Hello, and welcome to the Pro Series Conversations from CheckBox Pro. My name is Missy, and I'm the founder of CheckBox Pro, where we help school leaders become their most efficient and effective selves by matching them with ed-focused executive assistants. Each member of our team has over 10 years of experience in the education sphere, and though we may consider ourselves pros in some areas, we can't be an expert in every area. This is why we are excited to bring folks working in the education space to offer tools, tips, and insights to make the life of a school leader even more sustainable. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to a friend and former colleague, Stephen Ward. Stephen was a teacher for 8 years, where he saw incredible growth and achievement for his middle and high school science students. I've taught science, so really his bio could just stop here and I would be impressed. But instead, he then launched into an extensive leadership development journey. He was accepted into the Ryan Fellowship in 2016, which is when our paths crossed. He was placed at Grizzlies Prep, an all-boys charter school in Memphis, where I was working as the director of student affairs. During his time there, Stephen oversaw several initiatives around data collection and analysis, and planned and executed professional development sessions focused on instructional strategies. I saw firsthand how he effectively supported teachers and instructional coaches to be more data-driven to impact student success. For those that listened to the last episode, you may remember Kayla is a principal coach at Relay Graduate School of Education. Stephen participated in Relay's one-year National Principal Academy Fellowship program after his time as a Ryan Fellow to become an exceptional instructional leader and transform the schools he would later work in. He worked for several more years as a principal in Memphis at 2 different turnaround schools before moving to Minneapolis, where he now works as the principal at Prodeo at Columbia Heights Elementary Academy. Stephen, that is a lot and doesn't even scratch the surface on the numerous program certificates and licenses that you've collected over the years. You're clearly busy, so thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
And just like from one introvert to another, who would have guessed? Here we are on a podcast together.
Yeah, who would have thunk it? But that's okay. Hopefully we'll attract fellow introverts that connect with what we say, and it'll go from there.
Yes, that's great. That's great. Okay, in full transparency, as you sit across the screen from me, I legit am having flashbacks to our admin meetings together. I remember being so intimidated by you when you spent that year with us. No joke.
Really?
You didn't know this? Oh yeah, no.
Oh,
So for those of you who don't know Stephen and don't see him right now, he is one of the most polished and professional people I have ever met. He's a man of few words. He does not give out smiles, though you're really smiling today, or compliments freely. But that being said, when you get one of those smiles or that praise, it'll make your day. It really will. Seriously, cloud 9. So if I got a smile during like an admin meeting, I was like, can we just clock out now? Like, we're doing great. We're doing great. No, but really, if I could bottle your confidence, I would. And I'm just assuming, right? Like this comes from years of experience and just an extensive education background you have. So this leads me into my first question for you. Based on your resume, right, it appears as if you've been very intentional about your professional development. Why have you invested so much time into these various programs and training opportunities?
yeah. Man, I'll try to be a man of few words, but I think 2 thoughts come to mind. I had a great principal when I was a teacher that said, Stephen, no one is responsible for your professional development other than yourself. And I think that stuck with me. Because so many times I think as a teacher, I was like, oh, well, I'll just wait for them to train me, or if they think that I need to do this, then I'll just wait for them to do that. But when my school leader said that to me, I was like, wow, wow, like, yeah. And so I think that embarked on like getting all the books and looking for opportunities and signing up for this. So even in DC, I did like school retool and all these other programs because she said, you're responsible for it on your own. Like I can approve it, I can pay for it. Bottom line is, where you want to be and what kind of educator, what kind of career you want. And you are responsible for that. No one else is. So I was like, great. The second thing is kind of related to why I became a school leader. Um, I I've had this saying in my mind. I do not know who said it. Maybe I made it up, so I'll give credit to myself. But I say that our work is a balance of the theoretical and conceptual with the practical and applicable. And what I find is that you can go to graduate school and get all the book knowledge and they can tell you what it's supposed to be. You can write all these papers and you have this idea in your head. And unless you try those things out and you put it into
Mm,
practice and you see what
yeah.
works, there's a gap there. And I did not want to be a leader that could not fill that gap. That's why I did the Ryan Fellowship, which I had a field study year, and I could try things out while still gaining that experience. And it wasn't just like, oh, I've read this book in grad school and they've given me this diploma that says I'm ready to go lead a school.
Yeah.
So I think those two central thoughts have really explained why I've gone after certain professional development opportunities. Because not every opportunity is a good one. I also had to realize like no one's gonna no one's gonna look out for me and say, hey, you should do this. I mean, sometimes they might, but I was the one that was in charge of my own development, especially knowing what type of career I wanted to have.
I did not even think about that being, yeah, like getting that opportunity to be a Ryan Fellow and try it out and like for size and just taking what you've learned when not to say that the stakes aren't high, but like you get to do it underneath the wing of somebody else and kind of get pieces, right? Like you oversaw very particular and strategic pieces in which to try out kind of what your passions were or your strengths were. So I didn't ever make that connection of that being, yeah, that's good training. Okay, so you've been a principal now the last 7-ish years. Since becoming a principal, like, have you still invested in your professional development in the same ways that you did before taking on that role? And if so, in what ways?
Absolutely. When I was working in Memphis, I was like, hey, there's this thing that I keep hearing about called leverage leadership, and they seem like they
Mm,
have like some great programs. So I went to my boss and manager and said, "Hey, I would like to go and be a relay fellow." Uh, and they had the National Principal Academy Fellowship, and uh, it took some convincing because it is not inexpensive, but
yeah.
it is worth it. It's an investment. So honestly, as a school leader, the Ryan Fellowship hands down the best professional development. They followed for 3 years, absolutely. But the next best was the year-long relay fellowship with InPath. And again, it wasn't something that the board was like, we're going to send you. It was like, I need this as a school leader to be the type of transformational school leader that you want me to expect to be. And since that time, like all leaders in our network went through that, and the current network that I'm with also does that. I think as I pursue professional development as a school leader, there are a couple of things that stick out in my head. One is that return on investment, and not just like, am I learning things that are going to help increase the capacity of my team? But by learning this, am I going to get a return on time? Is there going to be an efficient system that's used so that my team has an easier job? Can they do their work? I also think about like, can I send somebody else to do this? Like, do I need to be the
Mm,
gatekeeper of all of this, or can I send one of my teacher leaders or my AP, and then they can bring it back and like teach us as well? But I tend to seek opportunities um, that are more aligned with like the vision and mission that I have for my leadership for my school. And I think I've built a great skill set. There's 16 years in education. There's not a lot that I have not seen or experienced. Um, but I think there are newer things that are just like required for us. So for instance, my state of Minnesota, they passed the READ Act, and that's because they want to align strong reading practices. I think that's amazing. I was a high school science teacher, so I don't know a lot about like foundational reading, but
yeah.
I realized that by participating in that professional development, even though
Mhm.
it's somewhat mandated, I'm becoming a better leader to help my team, getting
Yeah.
newer teachers, little teachers that may not have a background in education either. But it helps me be a stronger leader for them and therefore a stronger leader for our school.
Yeah. So going back to like thinking about the principal you had who was like, you're an owner of your own professional development. Is that the same posture you take at your school now with your teachers and your admin team of just like, go out and find what you want and then bring it to me? Or is it you're doing more of the identifying on their behalf? Like, where do you kind of fit in that?
I think it depends. In leadership, you can take one of these stances. You can be prescriptive and say, "You're going to do this." And I find that can work with newer teachers who are just like, "I don't know."
Right.
I
Yeah.
think the other two stances are a little bit more nuanced. You can be facilitative. You can ask a question. Hey, what do you need? What do you think of this? What barriers do I need to remove so that they can do it? And the last one, which is my favorite and sometimes can be scary, is collaborative, where you don't know the answer. You got to roll up your sleeves and figure it out.
Yeah.
I think it is my stance for my team. No matter what level you are, you usually have some funds for professional development.
Hmm.
I view it as my opportunity just to say yes to teachers or to my team to say, like, how does this align with our vision and our mission? Will this make you better? What do you think the return on is if we send you return on investment is if we send you to this opportunity? And then usually it's a yes. And especially if they brought it to us. But there are times in which, again, we have to do certain prescribed professional development. The last thing I'll say is one thing that I'm striving to get better with is differentiated PD. And I think for a school leader, we often say, hey, we only have a limited amount of time with our teachers. So whether you've been teaching 12 years or 12
Mm,
weeks, you're going to get this at the same rate.
yeah.
And I look at my veteran teachers and they're like, we don't need this, or we just need it. We need something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I think my next challenge is have if I have teachers that have been here before I came or longer, or if they've now had me as their leader for 2 years, is thinking about how we can differentiate professional development for them. And I think that part of that comes with giving them exactly what they feel like they need to become a better, stronger teacher, and knowing that you can say yes to them when they bring you opportunities, for sure.
Okay, that was my question a little bit later, but since you brought it up, like that's so true. This idea of like, so you have these PDs that they have an intended impact, right? And then you have like actual impact. And we've all walked out of a session, right? That's been like, this was such a waste of my time, which is limited. Like it's limited for really everybody, right? But like, let's think about school leaders or just teachers, right? Their time is so precious, and to be to be in a session that is ineffective is super frustrating. So like what is happening here? Like and I don't think I even sent this question to you in advance because it came to me later, but it's like how like why is there a disconnect between the intended impact of a PD and the actual impact? What are the solutions for that? Tell me more.
Mhm. I think three things, if I can kind of
Yes.
expand on that. First and foremost, a lot of PDs are like one and done. There is not a
Yeah.
scope and sequence that is that develops like the through thread through that professional development that is often shared with teachers in advance because we just don't plan for it. We're like, I've got to do this one session on this one topic, and like you're going to get it, and that's it.
Yeah.
The second connection is I think Relay does a really good job at this, but the biggest part of their professional development is playing and practicing. And they give you time to like plan your script or plan whatever the action step is, and then you get up live in front of people and you practice it.
Mm.
That's because you don't want the first time that you're doing something to be the first time that you're doing something.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy to glance over planning and practicing because you don't have enough time, but you have to make time. That is the most important part.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, I would say there's often no follow-up, no monitoring and reporting out. Here at my school, we will deliver professional development that is a part of our scope and sequence. We'll have that session on that one day. Let's say it's on a Thursday. We'll tell the team, hey, in the next week, we are going to be in your classroom. We're going to be collecting data. We'll be collecting feedback. We might real time coach you on just this one part of the professional development. And then we share out those results. We'll say 7 out of our 9 teachers implemented this one thing. Here's where I think we need to have some follow up. But it allows teachers to understand like it's so important that we are collecting data on it. Two, I feel like I don't have to get good at everything all at once. I could just be focused on this part. And then I know that this is a larger picture of where we're going professionally, and I can see how I get better each and every time. So I think those are the 3 points that are so important to PD. And if any of them are missing, it does make it ineffective for sure.
Yeah. Do you think that goes into like that third point is an interesting, right? Like that follow-on support beyond, which is nice, right? Like if you're doing an external PD, then it's a one and done or it's a multi-session and like you're kind of tapped out. But when you are building and creating the PD for your team specifically, is that a piece of the differentiation that's missing, right? Like you made a statement that's like these 9 teachers need like are doing it well, or I can't remember if you said do it well, or needs additional support. Like, is that where then you kind of are able to decide, great, like these people are going to get additional PD on this one thing. But hey, guess what? 5 teachers over here, y'all don't. Like y'all did great.
Yeah.
And now we're going to put you on this different track. So, and when you're talking differentiation, is it even down, not necessarily like 12 weeks of teaching versus 12 years? It's just skill set by skill set within a particular.
I would say yes. So for instance, like I said, if I had 7 out of 9 teachers that like hit the mark for what we delivered the PD on, those 2 other teachers would get extensive support. They could be assigned a practice clinic or an observation of a colleague who's doing really well. Those 7 other teachers now have become exemplars to where we can send people who are struggling or having some challenges so they can see it in real time.
Wow.
So yeah, we can lean into that, but the big point for our team is like, hey, we have in-house talent. We don't need to watch these other videos. We know that it's possible with our kids and our context in our community. Here are some people who are doing it. And then if they're having some trouble meeting that goal, their coach can work with them. Let's do an after-school practice clinic for 30 minutes. We can do what many athletes do is like review the film so that they can see the gap and then sit down and like plan purposely for it and give them a little bit more time to practice before they take a lap. The ideal goal would be to make sure that the teachers who are not um, who have not met the metric or the criteria for success, that they do that before the next PD session, because we want to make sure that everybody does get that foundational component to that professional development, and then we can differentiate on the back end.
Cool. Smart. Yeah. That's a great way to leverage and just create leadership opportunities, even just within your own building, right? Like, it's like, yeah, you're all are quote unquote equals of like both teachers in that role, but you're doing these things really well and like they deserve to be highlighted and shared. So that's awesome. Pivoting a little bit, I know we don't necessarily think of experience as, deemed professional development, but obviously, like kind of back to your very original point, right? You've got all this book knowledge, like something you would learn in professional development, but it takes the practicality, like the practical elements or the opportunity to put into practice what you've learned. So work experience is our greatest learning tool. It's like where you will see the most growth in yourself and in your team. You specifically have really worked at every age group over the years. Like you said, you started in high school biology, and now you find yourself kind of settling into, it looks like, elementary age students as a principal. Was this intentional? Sorry, I'm laughing because I have a 5-year-old, and I'm just thinking about my 8th grade science students, and I'm just like, ooh, so different. All of that experience, like just everything. But yeah, so was your decision to kind of settle into elementary age, was that intentional? And if so, why? How did you kind of find yourself where you are today?
I would say that it was not intentional. I definitely wanted to be a high school principal. My first leadership opportunity was a turnaround middle school in Memphis.
Yeah.
I I credit my experience in middle school for like making me who I am. I know there's a lot of strong opinions about middle school.
Yeah.
But I loved it. And then I
Yeah.
led a K-8 school for 2 years, and that was my first step, like putting my toe into to the elementary camp. I did learn a lot though, and I saw like by the time students had reached me in high school, what their education experience could be.
Mhm.
Um, and so I will say that even though it was not intentional, I love elementary. I think that it's ripe for learning. I think, with an increased focus on getting students to, third or fourth grade proficiency, because we know what the statistics say for them if they are not proficient by that age or grade level. Um, that I feel privileged to, lead an elementary school team. And, if I'm speaking candidly, I don't think I knew any principals that looked like me in
Mhm.
elementary. I've seen a lot of high school principals that look like me. I've seen maybe some middle school principals, but uh, I am proud to reflect the demographics of the community I serve
Yeah.
as the first person of color to lead this academy in 10 years of our network.
Wow.
And I would like to think that that is inspirational for our students as well. I've drawn so many connections to
For
them,
sure.
and I think uh, yeah, again, the way that we just do school here is it supports a student right away, and we would like to think that that will follow them for throughout their experience at Prodeo, but also going into high school, college. So while it was not intentional, I think life and the universe have a way of putting you where you need to be. So I'm glad to be here.
Oh, I love that. I love that for you. That's great. I really do. And you're not the first. I shouldn't say that because I feel like this person was actually, yeah, was teaching college and they found themselves now in middle school because they were getting college students who were coming in with, the inability to read difficult text and to apply critical thinking skills. And so she was just kind of like, I think I need to help catch it sooner, right? Like I think I need to get and yeah, to your point, like, yeah, elementary school is where it's at. And if you're not getting those then it's just it's an uphill battle for these.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at attrition numbers, it's crazy. Like, if you start with one group of students in pre-K or kindergarten, you track them for their 12 or 13 weeks of school, and statistically, you look at the numbers, your jaw would drop. You would be just amazed at how many students have fallen away from school, or it's just a lesser priority, or even their proficiency levels on things like the test or math testing or anything. It is it is crazy to me. But what I would say is, I applaud all the schools, school leaders, and teachers that are trying to do something about it because
Yeah.
it is not easy. The pandemic threw us a huge curveball, and I will say, whether people like technology or not, it threw us a huge opportunity to do something
Hmm.
innovative with our scholars. My network has I think done some really innovative things post the pandemic that have put us in a good light. Like we are now returning to post-pandemic achievement and growth data because we've been allowed to do certain things that we either didn't have a need to before or had thought about before, and it's having an impact on our.
Are you able to share what some of the like off the top of your and I don't know, it's a little, you
Yeah.
kind of keep your secrets, but
Um, I think first and foremost, we've been able to like just reallocate funds. I had a last year I had a line item for a building sub. I decided to forego that and to spend that money on an interventionist. That interventionist literally worked miracles for our students who were functionally illiterate. Our last year and this year, our top grade was fourth grade. Next year, we're expanding to fifth grade. We're developing fifth grade from our middle school. But we took fourth graders who barely knew their letter sounds to like on grade level readers because of that, because
Whoa.
of that interventionist. And we're expanding it. We have one and a half interventionists next year. Our ML, we have a very high multilingual population, including a significant number of newcomers. Um, we have like a parent summit twice a year that connects them to resources out in the community that they can connect to that just set them up for success. As a result, our ML students are outperforming our gen ed scholars. Like
Yep, love it.
so I think because we again have identified that need and we work closely with our parents and our families,
Yeah.
we can give them exactly what they need, and it turns out to be successful for our scholars. And those are like two examples that come to the top of my head, but I think
Yeah.
there are several others, including a lot of great partnerships that our organization has to make sure that our students have what they need, not only academically, but social, emotionally, psychologically safe. All of that is important to us.
Yeah, I think to your point, right? Like COVID forced us to think about people, right? And like see them as people and being responsive to like legit physical needs, but then now how that kind of has expanded. And so it's, I feel like having leaders who are doing the work of being responsive to their students and to their communities and their parents, right? Like is so important. And we see, you know, back to your point of like, for these kids to walk into a building and see somebody who looks like them, right, is so important. And to see somebody who is caring for their needs and being responsive to what they need is so important. Um, which ties into like the sustainability of school leaders. Like I think back to like the principles I had and my very suburban upbringing, right? Like decades. Like I think some of our principals were there for decades. And I've not been in education as long as you have, but the turnover is so it's heavy. It's just heavy. So that's part of why, right? Like I created CheckBox Pros. It's like we've got to help make this work sustainable for school leaders because we all know that when you have leaders who are in their seats for the long haul, right? It has such a lasting impact for those students and those families and those communities. Right, like you've managed to stick around for a long time in this space, in a not easy space, which is having such a huge impact, whether you see it, it's there. Um, so it's maybe a question you've asked yourself. It's certainly a question that several of our leaders that we work with have asked themselves is like, how do I make this work sustainable? How do I stay here? So from one leader to another, right? Like school leader, like talk to these to these other leaders who are maybe newer in their careers, but also some of them have been in a long time as well, and it's still hard. How have you personally created sustainability for yourself?
Have I done that?
Maybe the answer is no. And that's
Um, I think I've created sustainability for myself by um, sounds like a flippant answer, but it's really not. I think I found sustainability for myself by saying three words that are very hard for a leader, which is I need help.
Hmm.
Um, I, I feel like I'm a smart guy, but I don't claim to know everything. But when I look for people on my team, and whether I am able to choose those folks or I inherit those folks like the new school, I seek out people who are rock stars, who are hungry for feedback and to get better. But I also look for those people that are not the squeaky wheels. Like you have to engage them. And I usually find like magic there. And I usually go to them and I say, I need your help with this. Can you help me? And they are taken aback because they either expect their school leaders to know and do everything or no one has the effort. So my first thing for sustainability is to um, ask for help and be like very open to the feedback that you get. I think the second thing is I also return the favor, which is how can I help you?
Hmm.
What do you need?
Yeah.
And one thing that I've had to connect is like caveat A to that is I have learned to hold my tongue, to not overpromise and underdeliver, and to
Mm,
say to my team, let me think about this, or let me get you an answer by such and such. Because I think we want an immediacy.
yep.
Um, and I want to be really intentional. I want to make sure that it matches our mission, our vision, and our core values, that we're being good stewards of the resources that we have. Um, but I try those two things. And I think the third thing, um, and I have a small caveat for that. The third thing is I try my best to leave work at work. And this year I have left my work computer at my desk every single day. I do not take it home unless we have a snowstorm, which is very possible here in Minnesota. Um, I leave my computer here. I mean, I still can have like my phone. I have my personal computer at home, but I try to just like make sure that I'm prepped for the next day, close the laptop, and I walk out the door with my water bottle and my jacket, and I'm done. Um, and I try to model that for my team too. Like,
Yeah.
let's leave here. I think connected to that, you have to have, if you are married or seeing someone, you have to have an incredibly supportive partner who can support you in that. Have something to look forward to that like is a good balance to your work. Um, and then like three, which is for me, I do a terrible job of this because I only took one day off last year and I've like taken two this year. It's like take your time. Take your time to just recharge. That is the key to sustainability, right?
Yeah.
Taking your time to rest and recharge. You
Yeah.
cannot be a superhero. If we had 20 more minutes, I could tell you about a story of my teaching career where I thought I was a superhero and got a real quick lesson from my body. And you cannot do that. So I think those three things, like those caveats for me, help me in this work. I mean, this is year 8 as a school leader. Much to what you said is like the average tenure is like 3.5 years, 4 years, and I've seen so many of my colleagues, even in my writing fellowship class, and I loved them. We all
Yeah.
signed up to be principals. I think there's only two of us who are out of 8. There's only two of us left that are student principals, and we're coming up on year 8, year 9. Um, but I love education, and even when it's time for me to hang up my principal hat, I still want to get involved in education because this is the field that has brought me so much and that I've given so much to. It just brings me joy, and so I'll still be at it all these years later.
Okay, recap for us again. You're 3. You had 3. I need help. Saying
Say
those
that I need
words.
help,
I need
right?
help.
Yeah. Asking folks like, how can I help you?
You.
And then like, don't overpromise and underdeliver.
Yep.
And then the third one is like have like take a break. Have your
Yeah.
partners like be incredibly supportive, like leave your work at work. And then when you walk out the door, exist because you have earned that. People will tell you that school leadership is a 24-hour job. And what I tell them is that's if you make it such. Like you have to have strong systems and like know your boundaries. But those are the three things that I use.
I'm going to skip forward a little bit in my questions because you said the word boundaries, which is just like I just, I just love those words. And it's so hard. It's so hard to do. So and maybe I have a misremembering. You're making it sound like this is kind of a newer development for you, but I felt like you were doing that even at Grizzlies Prep of having like pretty good boundaries for your work in person.
Sure, absolutely.
So I'm like, does he agree with that memory of him? Like that I have of him? But and you kind of touched on a little bit, but like how have you like that's hard to close your computer and to leave it at work and to just be like, I'm done now. Like, how have you managed to set that firm boundary for yourself? And I mean, it sounds like yes, you still have some work to do of taking those days off, but baby steps. But yeah, so how have you done that?
Um, I would say that it's not easy. I think I had like taking the first step, I just had so much angst about it. And I realized that I'm not unreachable. I still have my phone, which
Yeah.
still has like my Gmail and GChat all set up for work. Um, But I was really careful. I work with a bunch of overachievers and people who will come at the crack of dawn and stay very late. And I realized like I have to model often for them how to just be able to walk away.
Yeah.
And just like including how to communicate. I will never forget. I think I sent an email because I was up at like, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning. And rather than schedule it, I just sent it. And the next morning, I had two teachers come by and said, "What is wrong with you? We don't do that." Like, I got that email at 1 and then like was thinking about it. It's like, oh my gosh, I never want that to happen.
No.
Um, but for me, I, I take a philosophical approach. When I close my laptop and I leave it here, the world is still going to turn. Everything is going to be okay. If somebody needs to get a hold of me and it is an urgent matter, they know how to get a hold of me. And I think everything benefits from a little bit of time. I know that I have been guilty of like reading an email in the wrong way and like firing off a response, and that was probably not the wisest choice.
Yeah.
So now I can just deal with it in like during work hours and like have set time and like ask questions and have follow up, even if it's like I'll get back to you in 48 hours after reading it. But I don't need to when I go home and I leave here at 4 o'clock, I don't want to go home and think about more work because that's just not healthy. I just want to say, I gave it my best today. Tomorrow's another day, and I'm going to enjoy these few hours before I have to close my eyes and try to be a better school leader tomorrow. And it's worked. And like I said, after that first day of eggs, and I was like, oh yeah, everything's good. I'm gonna be like nothing burned down.
Yeah.
It's been easier each day that I've done it. You just have to get in the routine to practice it.
I love that. I love that. Also for the listeners, um, you mentioned scheduling your emails. If people do not know how to do this, you need to start doing this because you're right. It models for your team expectations. Oh, my leader's firing off emails at 5:30 a.m. or oh, they're still sending emails at 10 p.m. Like I need to be on it and I need to be sending them too, and I need to be working. No, you don't. And like also, I mean, there are times where I log off of work and I'm like, well, I know tomorrow I have to start my day later because I have a school event for my kid. So I need to do a little bit of prep emails now because I don't have a full work day tomorrow, right? But I'm going to schedule those emails to go out the next morning during normal working hours because I need to adjust my working schedule. People don't know that. They don't know why I'm sending an email at 10 p.m. at night. It's like, well, that's because I'm not starting my day until 10 a.m. tomorrow. Like, it's just like and that's okay. And so I feel like you've talked a lot, and I think it's so important for leaders to hear is like how you live your work life and just how you exist outside of this building is modeling for your team and what is expected of them. And if you're going to run yourself ragged, they're going to run themselves ragged too. And you're going to find yourself having to replace them because they're
Yeah.
going to be tired. It's exhausting.
I think a small follow-up is like you know, I try not to make our team feel guilty for the way that they work best. So like
Mhm.
the teachers who show up early and they stay out late, like I'll be like, I won't even give any judgment. If that's what you need to like be at peace, fine. I think it's a problem if like you complain about it or whatever.
Right.
Sometimes it's venting, great, but if that's what they need, I want to support them in that. But I am going to model for me without really saying too much about it or any judgment. I'm just going to model me walking out the door. Have a great night, everybody. So good to see you. And they see me without my work laptop, or they don't get an email from me after I leave. Like for them, I think that sticks out in their head. And if they need something different, they're not saying, oh, Ward is judging me because I'm staying here late and I really should. No, I'm not. If that's what you need, if you need to work on the weekends, there have been Saturdays where I've come in to get a head start,
Yeah.
and teacher has joined me like making copies. If that is what you need, good for you. I just want to make sure you have equal balance to your life. Do what you need to do to be successful.
Yeah.
It's just not. I just don't have the expectation that you need to come in over the weekends.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, this is kind of just a fun one. And you've left work, follow you on LinkedIn. I feel like
Okay.
that's how I got exposed to this hobby of yours because I'm not even sure that you were doing it during our time in Memphis or it was not. Like, tell the people what you're like. It's a very interesting and it's a really creative hobby. What
Yeah.
what is it you are kind
I
of
don't know if
doing in your
it's
spare
really
time?
Um, so I've always dabbled in music. I was an instrumentalist to start with, and then sang for a long time, even for some churches for like 20 years. But during the pandemic, I felt I needed a creative outlet. We were all stuck in the house, and there's only so much TV that you can watch. So I picked up a keyboard or a digital piano and started composing and arranging. And it's been a good like opposite brain activity for me, especially during breaks. I usually have a goal of like doing one piece per break. And so it makes it manageable without being overwhelmed. But yeah, it's been a great creative outlet for me to have.
And you've also like had some accomplishments in it. Like it's
Yeah,
like people picked up your music.
they have. I've had two commissions by the same university, and this summer I'll be participating in the Minnesota Source Song Festival, which is a 2 year kind of like fellowship where they premiere a piece in the summer and then you write a song cycle and you premiere it next summer. And so definitely beyond my wildest dreams that I ever think this. I never thought that I would be published or have this fellowship or have two commissions. But I'm enjoying the journey.
Yeah. Did it change at all how you show up for work? Being able to have that. I
I'm
mean,
sure that it does. All right. I like I said, I think a few moments ago, you have to have something to look forward to. You,
yeah.
you have to have something that excites you. For some people, it's travel or connecting with family or taking a long bike ride or a hike. But I think I look forward to um, like just enjoying the process, the creative process, from learning a lot more, from like enjoying what I hear and going to hear it performed. Um, all of those things I think allow me to be a little bit more well-rounded and joyful and appreciative when I show up for work each day.
Love it. I stopped at the recorder in elementary school.
Now there are so many different types of recorders that all make beautiful sounds. So, it might be something you pick up again.
It may be, but I'm like, I don't know if the world needs that from Missy Couch is a recorder resurgence. Um, okay, I've got like two quick hit questions, right? I truly believe every school leader has their own superpower when it comes to their role within their organization. I really do, right? Um, so I'd like to know what you think yours is.
Without a doubt, strategic planning.
Oh, okay. I was
Yeah,
right there.
our
Okay.
Yeah, our organization has done the work, started the work last year for a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. I learned about strategic planning when I was a Ryan Fellow, and it has stuck with me all of these years. There's just something that excites me about saying, like, here's the metric, here's how you track if you're on course or off course, here are the steps that you're going to take. And then like course correcting when those steps don't work, like being innovative, doing some type of experimentation, because I was a science major in college. Like that is my strength. I think that is what has fueled the success of all the schools that I've led. Um, but yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy the thought process behind it. I enjoy the feedback. But strategic planning, without a doubt. And then I'd say connected to that is anything with data analysis.
Yeah,
I think
you're good.
data can be spun a number of ways, but we just have a commitment to telling the truth. Like this is it,
Yeah.
and being able to make a decision from that data also brings out the nerd in me.
Yeah. How do you lead a board? I don't know if do you have okay, so you don't have to. I find that's a common struggle for school leaders who lead boards is they've got this school specific data, right? Which if you're not in this ed space, like it's kind of hard to understand and like where you might see 30 percent proficiency and like schools are like this is great like it's the fall semester like this is fine and we know but like kind of making that translated to like people who are outside of the space or even parents, right? It's like it's going to be okay, like here's where or it's not and here's all the things that like are going to happen to make it not okay. But I like that what you said is like you just kind of have to own the real
Well,
story.
just like a small story, this
Yeah.
year we committed to having an academic parent data meeting. And what the reason behind that was because during report card conferences, parents would get their students' data and they would say, like, oh, here's where you are, here's they've had low or high growth, low or high achievement, whatever.
Mhm.
But they never got the results in relation to the students' peers. So we brought all the third grade parents together. Each student had an individual number. We shared the data for math and reading on NWEA map. And that was like light bulb moment because parents said, oh, this is how my child is performing with their peers in the grade. And for some parents, it was like, oh, they're like doing really well. And for some parents, it was like, oh, this is what you all mean. Like I got the individual report. That didn't make sense, but you're talking about how they're doing against the grade level and then their peers. Okay, what do I need to do?
Yeah. Mm.
So I think that goes with like parents just want the truth. They don't want to, we struggle sometimes because we want to be nice and rosy because parents might think any bad news is a judgment of their parenting, and it's not. We tell parents like you do the best of what you got, but we have committed to telling parents the truth about their data and then like getting their assistance and doing just like one thing to make a
Yeah,
difference. And I think we're seeing dividends of that this year.
that's awesome. That's so great. Okay, 2 to 3 general tips for a new principal. What would they be? It can be
Oh,
general or specific, to like kind of what we've been talking about, but
yeah. I am going to sound like a broken record. I think the first one is that you need to be clear on your personal values and make sure that they match with the organization that you're working for. You have two choices. Do I believe in what I believe in because I worked for the organization? I would say that's not going to serve you well. Or do I work for the organization because they believe what I believe? And
Mhm.
that's where the real magic is. It'll make it easier to wake up in the morning, even in those dark mornings when it's cold, when it's below zero here, and
Oof.
get up and go into the building
Yeah.
because there's alignment there.
Yeah.
I think the second one is hard to do, but it gets easier as you build the muscle, which is just to choose joy. I know that seems like, oh, so cliche, but the fact of the matter is, you showing up to the building can make somebody stay. It can make students stay. If you're able to, on Friday, I'm getting pied in the face 9 times. I hate it. I hate like smelling like warm milk, but it is what we needed to do to bring joy to our kids. Um, and I choose that. I choose that because that is not my natural personality, but I'm going to make the most of it because our
Yeah.
kids live it and they eat it up. And then I think the third one is kind of akin to what I've already mentioned is ask for help and seek out feedback from your team. And I think that you will be amazed what you get. We get this survey every year called the Insight Survey, and it's anonymous and it is helpful. It helps in prioritizing things that I think go into our strategic plan. I think it also gives people a safe space because it is anonymous, something that I have a love-hate relationship with.
Yeah.
Um, but I respect it. And I transparently share the results, the good, bad, and ugly with our team. And I say, as we got these results, these are the decisions that we've made. What do you think? And they feel like it's their opportunity to kind of drive the ship for a little bit. So I think those are my three things that have served me well, which is like be clear on your values, choose joy, be joyful, even in the hard times, it'll serve you well. And then the third one is ask for help and seek out feedback.
I love it. I love it. Okay, one final question that
Okay.
I ask all of my two interviewees in the spirit of my company's name, right? Checkbox Pro. What is one box, big or small, that you hope to check off today?
Wow, that is a question. I wasn't prepared for that.
It's kind of the point.
Um, one checkbox that I hope to check off today is this is the second week of our quarter, and we are doing state testing. This week, we began today. So I think it would have to be making sure that all of the students who were absent or late today get a personal message from me. We have a great system in which we can send those out fairly quickly, and just get them engaged, either see why they missed school today. But um, I need to do that because I don't want them to miss the second day of testing tomorrow. So I will say that is the big checkbox for today.
That's a pretty big box. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I know you're in the middle of testing and have lots of little humans relying on you. So, taking the time to talk to me truly means a lot. I'm sending y'all good vibes and just to you and your students and teachers. And, the end of the year is going to be here before we know it.
Now, before you go, let me just say, unsolicited plug, I have not worked with Checkbox Pro, but if it is anywhere close to my experience in working with you, I think any school leader that works with you will definitely benefit. I think the reason that I could do this interview today is because I have strong systems in place, some of which that I learned from working with you, Accuracies Prep, that I put into play here that wound up in my playbook or were part of my fellowship experience. So I think that every opportunity that you interact with strong school leaders makes you stronger, like iron sharpens iron. And I think that you sharpened my iron. And I followed you also on LinkedIn about like some of the resources that you have shared with school leaders. And I, without a doubt, know that like what you're saying does make a difference because a part of sustainability is like having those reliable systems that not only you use, that your team uses, so that you can do things like this that also matter. So I think that you're offering a great service, even though I've not taken that service yet, because of what I know about you, and I know like your approach and the work that you've done with your previous schools. So good luck with that. Not that you need it; it sounds like it's amazing. Again, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to kind of share what I've learned from you and just overall of my education from life.
Ward, you're gonna make me blush. It's a good thing this is a podcast and not a video. No, that's very kind. And yes, I'm going to see, I told you the praise. I'm telling you, it's gonna be on cloud 9 for the rest of today. I'm like, we're gonna shut this computer and be done.
Great.
But no, seriously, your community is so fortunate to have you. I miss working with you and I just so appreciate you just keeping at it in the work, and it's important and it's impactful. And if people don't tell you enough, thank you so much for all that you do. So
Thank you.
all right. Well, until next time.
All
Have a
right,
good
take care.
day.
All right, you too.
Did Stephen's insights on selecting quality professional development resonate with you? If so, we've crafted a practical PD vetting template incorporating his criteria. You can find it in the show notes, or you can visit checkboxpro.com/resources to download it for yourself.